Her mother's voice was cold. "Choose one, Emily. Any of these men could give you the life you deserve." 5 wealthy, well-dressed men waited in silence, but Emily's eyes drifted past them to the corner of the room where a humble janitor stood with his mop. She pointed at him and said, "I choose him." The Whitmore estate glittered that night like a palace. Gold chandeliers hung from ceilings high enough to swallow a cathedral. Crystal glasses clinked as laughter rolled through the ballroom. The air thick with perfume and the scent of roasted lamb from the banquet table. Claire, Whitmore CEO of one of the largest luxury brands in the country, stood at the head of the marble staircase, her hand resting on her daughter Emily's shoulder. Claire's dress shimmered under the lights, but her eyes were sharp, calculating. "Tonight," she said quietly, "you will choose." Emily frowned. "Choose what?" Claire's gaze swept over the 5 men lined up near the grand piano. Each was tall, tailored, and wealthy beyond imagination. Their watches gleamed like trophies, their smiles practiced for boardrooms and social galas. "Your new father," Claire said simply. Claire had been alone since Emily was 5. After her husband's sudden death, she buried herself in work, building the company to heights no one thought possible. But success came with expectations. Investors wanted stability. Society whispered about appropriate family images. And Claire began to believe her daughter needed a man of equal wealth to guide her future. Tonight's gathering was no accident, was an audition. The men smiled politely, waiting for Emily's gaze. But Emily's mind was far from impressed. At 16, she had grown up in this mansion, but never belonged to it. She preferred the quiet corners of the estate, like the service hallway that led to the maintenance room, where life was less polished, more real. And it was in that hallway, months ago, where she met Jacob. Jacob was the estate's janitor. In his early 40s, with a rugged face softened by kind eyes, he moved through his work with quiet efficiency. Emily had once found him repairing a broken vase she'd accidentally knocked over. Instead of scolding her, he had smiled and said, "Things can be mended, just like people. It just takes patience." Over time, she learned pieces of his story. Jacob was a single father too, raising his little boy Liam, alone after losing his wife to illness. Money was tight, but his pride was steady. He worked 3 jobs to keep Liam in school, never asking for pity, never bending his values. To Emily, that was wealth. Back in the ballroom, her mother's voice carried, "So, Emily, who will it be?" The 5 men straightened, each expecting the easy victory of a wealthy life. But Emily's gaze slid past him, searching the room until she spotted Jacob in the far corner. He was dressed in his gray uniform, holding his mop like it was the only thing keeping him anchored to the floor. Her heart decided before her mind could catch up. "I choose him," she said, pointing directly at Jacob. The room froze. One of the men laughed under his breath, thinking it a joke. Claire's face drained of color. "Emily," she hissed, "this isn't funny." "I'm not joking," Emily said firmly. "He's the kind of man Dad would have respected. He works hard. He takes care of his family. He's honest. Isn't that what matters?" Jacob's eyes widened, his grip on the mop tightening. "Miss Emily," he began, but his voice faltered. The murmurs grew, guests whispering in disbelief. But Emily stepped toward him, her chin high. "I don't need another man in a suit, Mother. I need someone who knows the value of love over money. Someone like him." Claire's breath caught. For a moment, she saw not her daughter, but her late husband standing there, defiant, principled, unwilling to be swayed by power or wealth, and something inside her cracked. 2 days later, the Whitmore estate staff gathered in the main hall. Jacob arrived, unsure why he'd been summoned. Claire stepped forward, her tone softer than Emily had ever heard. "You were right," she said to Emily. Then to Jacob, "You show my daughter something I forgot long ago. That character is worth more than any fortune. You are welcome in this family, not as a servant, but as a friend." Jacob's boy, Liam, ran into the room, and Emily bent to hug him. For the first time in years, The Whitmore mansion felt less like a palace and more like a home dot in a world that measures worth by wealth. It's easy to forget that integrity, kindness, and love are priceless. Sometimes, the richest person in the room is the one who carries the least in their pockets, but the most in their heart.